Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at a dark comedy from 2002. That movie is called Comic Book Villains. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, before I put this thing on the wish list, I gave the trailer a watch. And this thing really does seem like one of the more interesting dark comedies out there. Mind you, I'm a big fan of dark comedies, so it normally takes a lot for one of those to sort of catch my interest. I don't know if it's maybe the fact the whole thing sort of, is built around these two guys who are trying to gain possession of a massive comic book collection, and I'm just enough of a comic book nerd to be interested in that. Or maybe it's just the fact that I really like dark, comedies, and I'm willing to give almost anything a shot. I don't know, but I will tell you that the trailer looked incredibly good, and I'm kind of hoping for the movie to live up to it. But the only way for me to find out is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Comic Book Villains. Guys, I totally understand that with some movies it kind of sort of takes a while for things to build up, but I'm kind of waiting for the comedy part of this dark comedy to kick in. I mean, we have had a moment or two that are kind of dark, but so far nothing I would come right out and call a comedy. It's really beginning to worry me a little. Alright, I totally understand that I shouldn't be splitting hairs on this, but after fucking seeing this mythical comic book collection, the fact that, okay, yeah, a ton of them are incredibly old, but not a single one of them look to be bagged or boarded. As somebody who has collected comic books for many years, I can tell you that's the first thing you fucking do when you buy an older book. Because it helps keep their condition better. These things are sitting out in the open. I wouldn't fucking trust them no matter how old they are. Just saying. I really kind of like how he's bitching at the other guy for selling action figures and magic cards when every shot of his shop you see action figures on the wall and giant posters for magic. Not totally sure if they just fucked up when they were building his set for the movie, but seems kind of pointless to bitch about shit that you yourself sell, you know what I mean? Guys, I find it kind of sad. This movie was actually beginning to pick up for a little while, and now it's dragging again. In fact, now it's dragging even worse than it did at the start of the fucking movie. I really want to like this, guys, but it's making but this movie is making itself more and more difficult to like. Guys, I totally understand that this scene is supposed to be, tense and it's supposed to be dramatic, but it's just not working for me. It really fucking isn't, and it's beginning to kind of depress me a little. Alright, thank God that's fucking done. Well, guys, that was Comic Book Villains, and, I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm gonna have to explain why. Let me shut that off. Okay. Jesus God. Alright. Trying to figure out where the hell to even start. Well, I guess I should cover a pretty big thing, especially if you have any real knowledge of comic books. One huge part of this movie is going to absolutely bug the shit out of you, and that is this fabled collection which everybody is hunting for. Because, you see, they talk at great length about the value of some of these books. Now, certain ones are like $7,500, $5,000, $2,000. And, okay, yeah, and all of that is all well and good. But here is the big problem with that. Those values are if the book is in perfect shape. And they even come right out and say that these books are in perfect shape, pristine shape, what have you. And then the books you see are covered in creases, folds, tiny little tears, which can turn your $7,500 book into a $20 book just like that. And frankly, you'd think that two comic shop owners would notice that and would see that, this thing here is not exactly the mother lode that it's being played up as. If anything, it would just be some nice, filler on shelves, but it's not going to make you filthy rich. All right. So anyway, there is that. I kind of wanted to make that point clear before I go into the rest of the movie. Now, writing wise, oh boy. Well, let me put it to you this way: the film, for most of its run, it is too dark to be funny, and it's not funny enough to really call itself a comedy. This thing, guys, about halfway through, I stopped trying to watch it as a comedy because the damn thing had yet to make me laugh. So then I was watching it more as like drama of sorts, and even then it doesn't work because the dialogue absolutely sucks. I have no clue what the hell they were shooting for with this, but this thing fails as a dark comedy, it fails as a comedy in general, it fails as a drama, all on the writing. I think it has to do mainly with the fact that our characters here are all incredibly flat. All right, allow me to explain. Besides our main character who, or correction, he's not even our main character. He's our fucking narrator who's in the film for only maybe about a third of it. Our two main characters are the two comic shop owners. One of them is a diehard comic book collector and fan who is so fucking poor that his store is on the verge of shutting down. And the other shop owners have plenty, and I mean plenty of money, but they don't care about the comic book industry. At least that right there is what is said, and then there is never any real, attempt to prove or disprove this. It's like everybody says, that this bigger shop is just there to make money. You can tell because they're selling action figures and magic cards and statues and everything else, even though all of that's also sold in the smaller, poor, guy's shop. Just he doesn't have as much of it. But they also say that they're basically just comic book dabblers, they're posers, but there's never any proof to kind of back it up, which would have been incredibly nice. It might actually have made me care just a little bit more about all of the accusations being flung about these characters. However, though, again, that though is just huge issue involving the writing, because really they could have fleshed that out more. They could have made it where everybody here are just diehard fans, and that they're just sort of throwing around terms such as dabbler and poser just because they can. But no, there is no fucking effort there at all, and our characters wind up all incredibly shallow and flat. And in fact, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, characterization, storytelling, story pacing, everything which is wrong with this film, it actually does kind of sort of remind me of comic books, but not the good kind of comic books. This thing here almost feels as if it might have been adapted from one of those absolutely god-awful black and white indie comics from the 1980s. The fucking ones that were written in just the most slapdash, lazy-ass way possible. The fucking books that have no reason to even exist, and yet sadly they do. That is kind of sort of what this movie felt like to me. It felt almost like one of those sorts of comic books adapted, except most of those were about fucking, like post-apocalyptic bullshit and all that. However, though, the same kind of god-awful writing is present here, so that's sort of where I can make the comparison. And because of this terrible writing, and because of the lack of character depth, because of the lack of interesting dialogue, our promising cast is left to flounder with nothing to work with. Guys, it's not often when I say that Carrie fucking Elways is not able to take even bland bullshit lines and make them interesting. But that's exactly what happens here. It happens to him, it happens to frickin' Donald Logue, it happens to Michael Rappaport, it happens to Eileen Brennan. Every single promising cast member in this thing is just left to just kind of sort of wallow in bullshit because this movie's not giving them a thing to work with. And as for our narrator, well, our narrator is played by DJ Qualls, and DJ Qualls has never really been good to me, so frankly, I wasn't, expecting miracles from him. But still, the very fact that the rest of this cast couldn't do anything with the script given is nothing short of sad. And it's more sad on the writing than it is with the cast, because really, even though most of this cast is great, none of them are fucking miracle workers, okay? That also is just asking far too much of these actors to expect something good with a script this absolutely abysmal. Now, camera work is good, lighting here is really good, special effects, there really aren't a whole lot of special effects. We have a handful of squibs, that's it. But then again, that's because this right here is not exactly a fucking, effects film. I'll be the first to say that right now. Soundtrack, there really isn't a whole lot of a soundtrack here. I do kind of like, and yes, guys, I was able to find a positive here. I did kind of like how they were able to use like old comic book panels, and they would just have like really close-up shots of them as their scene transitions. I thought that looked really good. And I also have to applaud the attention to detail on both comic shops, because frankly, seeing as how the dialogue was just so absolutely bland and boring, I was finding myself attempting to identify the comics on the walls in one shop and trying to identify the action figures and the statuary and the trading card games being sold at the other. Yes, guys, that is how absolutely boring this is that I had to make a game out of the fucking background in order to get through this stupid thing. So yeah, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend comic book villains? No, I cannot in any way, shape, or form recommend this thing. This movie, guys, I went into it and I was absolutely expecting awesome, dark, funny shit. Instead, I only got shit, and that's never a good thing. Perhaps maybe if this thing is on Netflix, I say if you really, really want to waste about 90 minutes, go right ahead, but you would really have to be incredibly bored, or you would have to hate yourself just that much to have to sit through this thing. Now, comic book villains came off of the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Kari. You can find her YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/firefoxkari. And Kari, thank you. I was really curious about this one. As I stated at the very start of the video, I saw the trailer for this, and it looked really, really good. Unfortunately, they put all of the best shit in the trailer, and it's really sad, guys, when your movie only has about 2 minutes of interesting shit when its runtime is 90 goddamn minutes. So yeah, Kari, thank you. Wow. I still am absolutely floored by how fucking disappointed I was in this. I mean, come on. I really thought that the concept of two feuding comic shop owners trying to gain possession of this massive, ultra-valuable collection would make for an awesome movie. And it probably would if the person writing it wasn't an absolute dunce. So I'm kind of hoping that at some point somebody else will attempt this premise and maybe do something better with it. So yeah, guys, with that we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.